were two new signings this week for the Fever, and that was Myisha Hines-Allen and also Shatori Walker-Kimbrough. Now, Hines-Allen played for Dallas last year. I feel like the Hines-Allen signing was kind of like a fill-in for Natasha Howard. Their play style is somewhat similar, and I feel like if Hines-Allen can just step into the role that
16 players under contract, and that's the problem, because by the time opening night arrives, only 12 of those names will still be on the roster. 4 players are getting cut. 4 careers, potentially derailed, and the Indiana Fever front office just made decisions that have their entire fan base questioning whether this team is actually serious about winning a championship.
Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, I'm going to be so honest with you guys, I'm not so familiar with her game, but this is another undersized guard. 5'9". She played for Atlanta last season, and she averaged a little under 9 minutes a game. Now, I feel like the reason why fans were crashing out is because they're like, why are we signing more guards? It seems like the 4 spot for the Fever, the 5 spot for the Fever is where they really need somebody to fill in, because obviously you have Caitlin Clark,
Myisha Hines-Allen and Shakina Walker-Kimbrough, those are the 2 names that set social media on fire this week. Hines-Allen played for Dallas last season, stands 6 feet 1 inch, essentially a smaller version of Natasha Howard, who the Fever just let walk in free agency. Walker-Kimbrough averaged under 9 minutes per game for Atlanta. She's 5 feet 9 inches. Another undersized guard added to a roster that already has Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Rhyne Howard, and Tyra Harris. The reaction was immediate. Fever fans didn't just question these signings, they crashed out completely, because when you look at this roster construction, something doesn't add up. The front office keeps talking about winning now, about building around 3 potential all-WNBA players, but then they're signing backup guards who barely saw the court last season, instead of addressing the glaring holes at the 4 and 5 positions.
I were the Indiana Fever front office, I would not be signing any more undersized guards. And I said this right after they signed Kelsey Mitchell. And I might be in the minority here, but I just don't think that teams should have multiple undersized guards. Being a great undersized guard in the WNBA is kind of rare. I feel like Kelsey Mitchell and Kelsey Plum are the 2 best undersized guards in the league. And I'm talking like 5'10" and under, 5'11" and under. Like Kelsey Mitchell is super quick. Like you have to have something very special about you, because it's very hard to play defense when you're undersized. It's hard to create space for yourself when you're undersized. And there are some people who are amazing at it.
Here's what makes the Walker-Kimbrough signing particularly baffling. Kelsey Mitchell is 5 feet 8 inches. She's one of only 2 truly elite undersized guards in the entire WNBA, along with Kelsey Plum. Mitchell has something special, that rare combination of quickness and shot creation ability that allows her to dominate, despite giving up 4 to 6 inches every single night. But being a great undersized guard in this league is the exception, not the rule. You need to be exceptionally quick, exceptionally skilled, exceptionally tough. Most players under 5 feet 10 inches struggle defensively. They can't create separation on offense. They get posted up, switched onto, hunted in pick and roll coverage. It's just the reality of playing basketball at the highest level, against the best women's players on the planet. So, when you already have Mitchell, when you just drafted Rhyne Howard, who's a defensive specialist but still learning the offensive game, when you sign Tyra Harris as another guard option, why are you adding a 5th undersized guard who averaged 8.7 minutes per game last season? What role is she filling that couldn't be better served by adding size and length to a frontcourt that desperately needs it?
The free agency market before they signed Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, and Odyssey Sims actually just signed with the Dallas Wings. It's like that was a piece who Odyssey Sims actually did really well last year in the playoffs and was a crucial piece to that Fever team. So I was wondering, like, if you're going to bring back an undersized guard, why not bring back an undersized guard that you know has good chemistry with the girls, is a good locker room fit, and is somebody like you understand how she plays. She understood her role. So that was the thing that just kind of confused me. Aari McDonald is another one. Now I know Aari's been dealing with a lot of injuries, but you had a couple that were on the team.
And here's where it gets even more confusing. Odyssey Sims was still available when the Fever signed Walker-Kimbrough. Sims played crucial minutes for Indiana in the playoffs last season. She understood the system, had chemistry with Caitlin and Aliyah, knew her role, embraced coming off the bench. She was a veteran presence who performed when it mattered most. Erica Wheeler was also still on the market. Wheeler has dealt with injuries, but she was on the Fever roster the previous season. She knows the organization, knows the culture, has playoff experience. If you're determined to bring back another undersized guard as insurance, why not bring back someone who's already proven they can contribute to this specific team? Instead, the Fever went with an unknown quantity, a player who'll need time to learn the system, build chemistry, understand her role, and time is the one thing this roster doesn't have, because they just gave Kelsey Mitchell a 1-year Supermax contract. That's not a rebuilding move, that's a win-now move. That's the front office saying, we believe this core can compete for a championship right now. But then, the rest of their free agency decisions don't match that urgency.
A lot of people are just focused in on the negative. The good thing is they have 3 players who could possibly be first team all WNBA this season. Aliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, and Kelsey Mitchell. Caitlin Clark was first team all WNBA her rookie season. Kelsey Mitchell was first team all WNBA last season. Aliyah Boston was second team all WNBA last season. And if you've been watching Aliyah Boston play throughout the offseason, she has gotten significantly better. There are not that many teams in the WNBA that can say that they have 3 players who might be first team all WNBA. So I feel like even just with that core, that puts them ahead of a lot of teams. And I know, I know you want the Fever front office to be perfect with everything, but you have to look at that as a win.
You have to look at that. Look at the frontcourt situation. Aliyah Boston has size and skill. Nalissa Smith has athleticism and length. Damaris Dantas brings veteran experience and three-point shooting. Hines Allen is tough and works hard. And then there's Mykelti Thompson, who has all the raw talent in the world, but played so sparingly last season that you have to wonder if she'll even make the final roster, or get relegated to a developmental contract spot. That's it. That's the entire frontcourt rotation, and only Boston is a proven, consistent, elite-level player. Smith is talented, but inconsistent. Dantas is solid, but limited. Hines Allen is an upgrade over Howard in some areas, but she's still only 6 feet 1 inch, still undersized for the 4 spot against the league's best teams. Compare that to what the Aces have up front. Compare it to the Liberty's frontcourt after adding Satis Abowli and Rebecca Allen. Compare it to what Minnesota can throw at you with Nafisa Collier and Alana Smith. The Fever are going into next season knowing that their frontcourt depth is their biggest weakness, and they didn't address it. They had opportunities, they had cap space, they chose not to use it.
Fever not pick up Medina, like that would actually be a good fit for the Indiana Fever. But anyway, the Atlanta Dream is 4. The Minnesota Lynx are 5. The Los Angeles Sparks are 6. I think I might have them a little bit higher. They have Ray Burrell coming back, Dearica Hamby coming back, obviously signed Neko Gumake, Kelsey Plum will be back, and then Ariel Atkins will also be joining the Los Angeles Sparks. The Phoenix Mercury, I think I would have lower. The Dallas Wings, I might have a little bit higher, but I think the thing about the Dallas Wings is there's such a wild card with how all of these players are going to gel on the court. We just don't know until we start to see them play. 9, the Golden State Valkyries, 10, the Chicago Sky. I might have the Chicago Sky a little bit
as well, and I also. But here's what the Fever did get right. And this is important, because it's easy to focus only on the negatives when you're frustrated with front office decisions. 3 players who could realistically make first team all WNBA next season. Caitlin Clark made it as a rookie, Kelsey Mitchell made it last year. Aliyah Boston was second team, and has spent the entire offseason getting significantly better. There are maybe 3 or 4 teams in the entire league who can say they have 3 legitimate all-WNBA caliber players in their starting lineup. That's not a small thing. That's actually a massive competitive advantage. If the supporting cast can just be competent, you don't need stars at every position when you have 3 players who can dominate games, and the chemistry is already there. We watched this core make the playoffs in Clark's rookie season. We watched Mitchell and Boston carry them through the postseason, when Clark was still figuring things out. We saw the potential, we saw what happens when those 3 are clicking together. That foundation exists, it's real, it's proven, and mistakes.
They're so young. They're going to be so fun to watch. Like maybe they're not a playoff team just yet, but they're at 11, the Seattle Storm at 12, which makes sense to me. The Sun at 13, the Tempo at 14, and the Portland Fire at 15. And I do think the Tempo and Portland Fire were not set up as well as the Golden State Valkyries were last season. And so I would expect them to be at the bottom, but we will just have to see. And lastly, you guys, before I let you go, this has been going super viral on social media, and it's AZ Fudd's first press conference, and she was actually asked about her relationship with Paige Beckers. Let me play for you guys the clip.
Paige announced last year on TikTok that y'all were a couple, and I'm wondering if that is still the case, and if so, if y'all have talked to any other couples in the league about how they negotiate that dynamic as pro teammates.
I understand why you have to ask that question, but we're going to respectfully decline from commenting on our players' personal lives. Go to the next question.
So this has been all over social media. Everybody is giving their 2 cents. Everybody is giving their opinion. And I honestly think that everybody is giving their 2 cents and giving their opinion because the Wings PR team did not let AZ answer the question. And am I crazy to say that I feel like AZ is so good in the media? She speaks so well that she could have eloquently answered this question. Like I personally don't understand why the Wings PR didn't allow her to answer that. I feel like if she
The WNBA's official power rankings came out this week. Vegas at number 1, which makes sense. They're the defending champions, and they brought back essentially the same roster that won it all. You put the champs at the top until someone proves they can beat them. New York at number 2, and honestly, on paper, the Liberty might have the best roster in the league right now. Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, Jonquil Jones, plus they added Sabali and Allen. That's terrifying. That's 5 legitimate stars who can all create their own shot, all defend multiple positions, all make winning plays. If the chemistry works, if Tyler Marsh can manage all those personalities and egos, the Liberty should be the favorites. And then at number 3, the Indiana Fever, which is fascinating, because last offseason, after signing Natasha Howard, Kelsey Mitchell, and bringing in multiple veteran pieces, the Fever got absolutely destroyed in free agency grades. I remember reading articles that gave them AD, called them the biggest losers of the offseason, questioned every single move they made. Now, after a more conservative free agency, didn't make any flashy signings, where they let Howard walk, where they made moves that have their fan base crashing out on social media, the official WNBA power rankings have them third in the entire league, ahead of Atlanta with Angel Reese, ahead of Minnesota, ahead of the Sparks who just added De'Erica Hamby, Azura Stevens, and Eriko Gunbowl, ahead of Dallas, who made the biggest moves of any team in free agency. That tells you something about how the league views this Fever core. The respect is there, the belief that Clark, Mitchell, and Boston can carry this team is real. The question is whether the supporting cast and coaching staff can maximize that talent. Atlanta at 4 makes sense. They got Reese, they brought back Jordan Canada, Alicia Gray, Ryan Howard. That's a young, athletic, dangerous team that's going to cause problems. Minnesota at 5 is probably underrating them. The Lynx have Collier, who might be the best two-way player in the league, plus Kayla McBride and solid depth. Don't sleep on Minnesota. The Sparks at 6 feels right. They made huge moves, but it's going to take time for all those pieces to fit together. You've got Hamby, Stevens, Ogunbowl, Kelsey Plum, and Ariel Atkins all trying to figure out roles and touches. That's a lot of talent, but talent doesn't always equal wins in year 1. Phoenix at 7 seems high, given their roster turnover. Dallas at 8 is interesting, because they might have the most star power outside of New York and Vegas, but they also might have the most question marks. Paige Buchers, Aya Satu, Tierra McCowan, how do all those personalities and play styles mesh? Who's the primary ball handler? Who takes the big shots? Those are questions that won't get answered until we see them play real games. The rest of the rankings don't matter as much. Golden State and the Dream at 9 and 10, Chicago at 11, which might be underrating them, given the Dejounte Carrington signing and what they're building. Washington at 12, with all that young talent. Seattle at 13, after losing so many pieces. Connecticut at 14. Toronto and Portland at the bottom, as expansion teams trying to find their footing. but focus on that top 3, Vegas, New York, Indiana. That's where the Fever are ranked, that's the company they're being placed in. Not because of the free agency moves they just made, but because of the core they already have, because of what Clark, Mitchell, and Boston proved they can do when they're on the court together. So here's the real question about this Fever roster: can the supporting cast be good enough? Can Heinz Allen give you 12 solid minutes a night? Can Smith be consistent, instead of disappearing for stretches? Can Dantas knock down threes and provide veteran stability? Can the guard depth hold up if someone gets injured? Because if the answer to those questions is yes, if the role players can just be competent and let the stars do star things, then maybe this conservative free agency approach works. Maybe you don't need to make flashy signings when you already have 3 all-WNBA caliber players, who are all under 26 years old, who are all still improving, who all have chemistry together. But if the supporting cast struggles, if the frontcourt depth becomes a liability against elite teams, if the coaching staff can't maximize this talent, then all those questions about the front office's decision-making become a lot louder, and a lot harder to ignore. The Fever had a choice this offseason: go all in and try to build a championship roster around their core immediately, or trust the process, make smart financial decisions, and bet that their star power alone is enough to compete. They chose the second option. Whether that was the right call, we won't know until the games actually matter. But the fact that they're ranked 3rd in the league, despite those conservative moves, tells you everything about how much faith people have in Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, and Aliyah Boston. So what do you think? Did the Fever do enough to compete for a championship, or did they waste a crucial offseason when they should have been adding pieces to put this team over the top? Because 1 year from now, Kelsey Mitchell's Supermax deal expires. 1 year from now, this window might start closing, and if they don't maximize it right now, they might not get another chance. Let me know in the comments whether you think this roster can actually win it all, or whether the front office just blew their best opportunity to build something special.